What's up, Athletes Labs? Coach Beard back with you for episode 5 of Outside the Lab, our brand new video podcast show where we're bringing on different folks from all over the baseball and really all of sports, that landscape, not just in the area, but around the whole Southeast. So very happy and pleased to introduce to you a colleague at school at Bunker Hill here. He's our women's basketball coach. Also just a good buddy of mine, Coach Lee Swanson. Coach, appreciate you coming on the show with us.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, and obviously you and I know each other and talk very frequently, and I know your background. But for the folks out there listening who don't know you and your background, take us through that and kind of what perspectives you're coming from here.
I was born and raised somewhat in this area, not in Claremont, but where I work now. But I was born and raised in Hudson and spent a lot of time working at the Rec Center Granite. Just fell in love with basketball and I think I was a decent high school player, probably not going to win any major awards, and had a chance to play at the next level for a little bit and decided to go on and get an education and got into coaching pretty young and have been doing it for, 13, 14 years. And it's just, I don't know what I'd do without coaching. So it's kind of one of those things where it's about all I know now.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, talk to us about, because I know you mentioned you were from Granite and from the Caldwell County area and actually spent the first probably close to a decade of your coaching career at South, right in the backyard. It's your alma mater. Talk about the decision to move down to Bunker Hill. I've always thought that was interesting and said a lot about you. I mean, you could have stayed somewhere where I'm sure it was very comfortable, very well liked, had some success up there, took them to the playoffs, just a whole list of things. But to kind of leave that comfort zone and step out and take an opportunity 30 minutes away from the house, talk about that decision and kind of what led to it.
Well, it's kind of, how it all went down was, I guess I'd been an assistant maybe 2 years, and the guy I was working under got into being a principal, and he's still a principal this day. And I was fortunate enough that I don't know that there was high demand to be the boys basketball coach there during the time period. And, had some success maybe my middle couple of years there, struggled the first two and struggled my last two, pretty good in the middle. It's not an easy job to win at. Great kids, terrific kids. But just long story short, I don't even know that Bunker Hill necessarily was on my radar. And I kind of got a call from a buddy who said, I'm not really interested, but I think they're looking for somebody. You might get a call. And honestly, I got a call. I came down and interviewed in like my shorts and a T-shirt straight from school. And I just kind of thought about, hey, this is all I've ever known. I've kind of been from this area. And I could stay here for 30 years, but at the same time, I don't know if that's what's best for my career, but I also don't know if that's what I want to do. And I guess it's a little bit scary because you develop relationships with all these people that you have. And I still have a lot of good relationships with people at South. But then, knowing what I have now, where I'm at and the relationships I have and the kids I coach, things like that, it's just amazing. If you're not a little bit bold to make that decision, then you don't experience those things and make those connections. But I'll say this, having the ability to leave where I went to school and come somewhere else and kind of take that new challenge was probably the best thing I ever did for me personally, because you had to grow, you had to learn new things, you had to learn different type of kids and different community. And that was probably the most rewarding thing. And now, I've been at Bunker Hill, I guess 5 years, getting ready to go on 6, and it just feels like I've been there my whole life now.
Yeah, that's interesting and good stuff, man. You always hear, you really can't grow in your comfort zone. You got to step out and get outside of that and take a leap of faith. So really just a good example of that. And like you said, probably force you to do some things that, maybe you wouldn't have otherwise, and develop relationships, come into a new place and learn a whole new community and program and school. So that's interesting and good stuff. Speaking of that, kind of one of the big words that I took out of that whole segment was growth, and kind of how, whether you wanted to or not, that move kind of forced that growth. So, and you said you've been at it over a decade now, almost 15 years. Talk about, what is the Lee Swanson, the Coach Swanson in 2020 like compared to the guy 12 years ago?
A lot more mellow, a lot more mellow than he was There are probably some kids that could attest to that played for me. I would say the biggest thing I would look at was my first year when I got to Bunker Hill on the guys' side. They had lost a lot of talent the year before. I don't think we had a ton of expectations. We had a pretty good year. Really did some things people didn't expect, made the playoffs. And I thought, okay, I've arrived. That's probably the best year I'd had. And I thought, okay, I left this one situation and now I'm in a new situation. See, that was it. If you just go to this one situation, then that's all it took was just changing venues. And then the next year we have some injuries and we just weren't very good. We were young, but we weren't very good. And I think that's probably the moment it clicked that, hey, like, you got to put the work in still. You may have been doing this 5 or 7 years ago, but you're a little bit stagnant. And I spent more time going to clinics, more time reading, more time doing stuff after that year. And I just kind of swore, like, hey, we're not doing this again. That doesn't mean we got to win 20 games, but we're never going to be like this wherever I'm at. And I'm going to make sure of it as best as my ability. And I said that's probably the biggest growth, and really have had pretty successful seasons with the guys and the girls since. And credit to them. It's not like we didn't have talent. You're not going to win without some talent, some good kids at all. But I'm certainly a better coach. I knew everything at 23. I just needed a job so I could show everybody. And once you figured out that, hey, there's a lot of people that know a lot about basketball. It's really not what you know. Can you relate? Can you have relationships? And, trying to build some culture and do those things. I probably realize now I know less now than I did when I was 23, if that makes sense. But it's certainly always trying to just figure neat things out and figure out how to get better.
No, that's right. Several good points there for the folks listening. I agree. I think you come out, you're fresh out of school. Your hair is on fire, so to speak. You feel like you're ready to take on the world, and you know it all. And I think you're right. You realize pretty quickly that, hey, maybe I don't quite know it all. And there's a lot of folks out there I can learn from and take from and beg, borrow, and steal. And I think you hit the nail on the head too when you say, I think one of the biggest things, and I know me personally, is none of this is about me. It's not about racking up wins or trophies or accolades. None of that stuff really matters personally as a coach. It's all about those 12 to 15 guys that you have a chance, and girls on your side, to be with and impact. Because the reality is, for most of those kids, I mean, we're at 2A Bunker Hill. You've got some good basketball players, and there will be a couple who have a chance to go on and play. But for most of them, this is it. Well, after Bunker Hill basketball, they're on to school, and they need to be good students and good spouses and parents and employers and all those things down the road. So, how can we impact them? What kind of experience can we provide for them? I think that's what it's all about. And which kind of leads me into the next thing. Talk about that transition from the guys to the girls. So folks listening, Coach was the boys basketball coach at South and was the boys coach here at Bunker Hill for 4 years before going over to the girls side this year. And I'm telling you, as somebody who was, around it daily, minus the summer, of course, but around it daily, you look at it, you really didn't have a ton of time to make that transition, from what May maybe until November when you played, but really it looked seamless. When you guys stepped on the floor in November, you were as cohesive, and obviously you're going to grow throughout the season, but as I think you could have been. So talk about, what it was like building culture, maybe through the summer, the off season. What are some things that you guys did?
Well, we try to build as much culture as we can. I think I get better at it yearly. I'd say when I first started, I could have some quotes and some T-shirts, and we had a lot of good stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think making your culture more applicable and something that's tangible is always maybe the key to doing some things. So, of course, me and you've spent some time over the years with our male athletes and stuff, trying to do some stuff. But, we did, we had a breakfast of champions. We did kind of stole that idea, and we met for the preseason in the mornings and some in the season where we'd get together and just either I would speak or I'd bring somebody in, and we would talk about just anything we could that related to our culture, what we wanted our culture to be, developing our standards for the team. And then, we did some stuff like we went to a ropes course. We did a lot of team building as far as that. During the season, we actually went to an escape house, which was really cool because the kids were 100 times smarter at it than I was. I'd still be in that if they hadn't got me out. But
If they were 100 times smarter than you, they were 1,000 times smarter than Clark.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Coach Clark he lives for those things, but evidently he's better at it than me. I'm not sure that's possible, but I think the transition was just learn how to coach them a little bit. I'm still learning about girls and things like that, as far as how to push them and how to be hard on them, but not too hard, but also having expectations. And they're learning me, and I certainly think we'll be culturally better. Hopefully when November comes around, it's a little bit different, but we're going to do some things to try to fight against being apart. But, I would say the biggest thing that helps, and I would say anybody this, and it's not something I necessarily did early on in my teaching career, but as I get older, if you look at the kids that I had a lot of those kids in class, and I built really strong relationships with them in class. So when I got to take over the job, I kind of already knew those kids. Now, I didn't coach them, and I know it was a different role, so they had to see me, and I had to see them differently. But I already had a pretty good relationship. And one of the things that drew me to that was just there was so many good kids on that girls' team, and not that there wasn't on our guys' team. There's a ton of good kids still there, and graduated this year. But I kind of came in with that senior class. I got a daughter myself, and she's certainly been around more. Hopefully, she gets older and maybe goes to bed a little later. She'll be around even more. But it's been a lot of fun building those relationships.
Yeah, I think that's important. The folks. The thing about it is you were already here. Obviously, you weren't coaching those girls, but you were here and had them in class and saw them around school and the gym and things like that. And I think that makes a huge difference. And I find a way to talk about our performance center every chance I get. But I think from our side of things, that's one of the key advantages of that thing is, our showcase season in the summer, most years is going to be late May to mid July. But, our team, even though they're off at their high schools and doing their own thing, our team really gets a chance to gel. For you, it was in the classroom. For us, it's in the facility. So I think the more we can be around each other, and develop those relationships, even off the court and off the field. That's big time. Another thing I took away from that is tangible. And you mentioned T-shirts and sayings, and I've heard it before, and I think we talk about this some. Is I can put something on a T-shirt and I can have any saying I want, but does that really mean we have culture? Does that really mean that that's kind of what we're living by? And I think if you really want to know, just ask your kids. Have somebody come up. Hey, what's your team culture like? What's your program about? What are you guys doing? And if they can't tell you, then I think you got to go back and reevaluate. And I know for you guys, it was tough. TUF this year is kind of what you built the whole program around in year one. So talk about that tough culture and the standards behind that, and kind of how you develop those together over the course of the off season.
Well, our tough just simply meant trust, uncommon, fight. Those are kind of the three words that we used that we wanted to do. And we built what we called our tough standards. Obviously, the first three were trust, being uncommon, having fight. And, something like trust, we were going to tell each other the truth. We were going to be dependable. Uncommon, we were going to do things different. Fight, we were always going to try to play four quarters and compete in practice. And then we had, several other standards that we developed. And the kids, we kind of met one morning, Breakfast of Champions, and came up with some ideas. Okay, these are the 10 we think we like. And then they came in the next week and say, these are what they mean, and kind of try to define them. And I don't know that I did a great job of doing, reminding and going over those. On the first three, I think we did a pretty good job of talking about, and I would say our kids knew what they were. So I think we'll try to do a better job than that. But I think the foundation of any relationship is trust. If your kids can't trust that you're got their best interest or you're trying to do the best you can with them, then they're going to have a hard time playing hard for you. And if you don't trust your kids, it's going to be hard to, I say it all the time, I'm not a football coach. We don't call plays. We're trying to get out and go and play with pace. And so, that may not be what everybody plays, but that's the way we want to play. So learning to kind of trust. And I would say, obviously, our point guard, Addie, that was probably something we struggled with early. Not that we didn't trust each other, but her trusting, hey, this is what I want to do, and me, trusting, hey, she's going to get it eventually, lay off a little bit. So I think as the season went on, we developed a little bit better there. But I think that's the fun part, and looking at how you can do better. I've been sitting there for pretty much all day since it's raining and trying to develop stuff that'll hopefully make our culture even stronger. But you just hope that your kids can kind of tangibly, when I see the church, they can put their hands on it, they can feel it, they can at least describe it for you. And I still think that takes time. I'm sure Nick Saban's culture is a lot better now than it was the first year he got to Alabama.
Yeah, no doubt. I was sitting here jotting down some notes. I really think, you hit the nail on the head there talking about it's got to be part of every single day. Like there can't be a day that goes by, whether it's a practice day, a film day, a game day, whatever, where we're not mentioning those things to our kids. If that's what we're going to be about, and that's going to be our identity, then it's got to be on the forefront of their minds all the time. And it seems like to me that that's something that sometimes gets thrown to the wayside with us as coaches. Sometimes, I mean, I know you've been there. I think if you polled every coach in the nation and said, "Hey, is culture important to building a winning program?" I think everybody would say yes, no doubt. But how often are we able to make that a part of our daily habits and practices and routines? Because I mean, you get in the middle of the season. There's one gym. There's 4 practices. I've got an hour and 40 minutes, and I've got to get this done for tomorrow night's game. And now all of a sudden, those standards and that culture stuff kind of gets forgotten that day.
It's easy to do for us, Coach, even as coaches.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, as far as Breakfast of Champions or team book reads, and you get into the grind of the season, and if you can just run one more set, or if you can just get one more 10 minutes of practice in and you can skip that, you feel like that's important. And it's probably not in the long run. I would say, just personally, I don't think I answered this real well as far as our kids, just to pick 2 moments. When we lost to Patton at home this year, which wasn't a bad loss. Patton is a good basketball team. Matter of fact, they probably should have beat us the other 2 times. Thankfully, they didn't. But, we came in and had a great practice not long after that. And I thought I was going to have to be more upset and push more. And at that point, I think they understood what I was asking them after they kind of realized, hey, this is where we kind of need to practice. And then I would say, as the year went on, sometimes we were playing some teams that we were certainly better than, and maybe somebody would see our kids and say, hey, great job. And they'd say, and then somebody would say, well, hey, you won big. And you'd hear our kids say, yeah, but we didn't play to our standards. And that's when you kind of know, when you say it and they're like, yeah, whatever, coach, that's one thing. And when they start saying it and telling you, then you feel pretty good about them understanding your language.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'll tell you, as somebody who watched it unfold from November into February, it was very obvious how quickly those things came along. And obviously, as a coach, you always want it to come along quicker, but those things definitely came along for you guys. And as a fan, not just a buddy and another coach, but as a fan, it was fun to watch. And no doubt you guys are just going to keep taking off. And in year 2, let's kind of switch gears and talk about that now. You guys had a great year 1 and implemented some things, and certainly always looking for ways to get better. But as you head into year 2, obviously not exactly where you probably pictured yourself on April 23rd at whatever time it is. No doubt we'd rather be at school and with our kids, but we're not, and that's our reality. So talk about kind of what are you doing now that you're getting to the point where you would be in your off-season program, regardless of what phase you would be in. How are you still trying to implement some things and do some things creatively?
Well, we had actually talked to Coach Clark, our football coach, who helped me some this year. Obviously, that, but I told him last week. I said, it's spring break. I said, typically we would not do anything anyway right now. We just got out of basketball season, got a lot of softball players that do. We got some track kids, and we typically would give them these 3, 4, 5 weeks anyway, because most of them are tied up. And then we would try to start some things, see where our numbers were, and obviously we would have a busy summer. So I told Clark, I said, I'm going to call a meeting next week, which we normally start and say, hey, look, this is when I need you. I say meeting, a Google meeting, Google Hangout. And, we're going to call another meeting and that's where I'll send down what I believe will be there. So I believe to be that we're not going to see each other this summer. That's my personal belief. I hope I'm wrong. That's just kind of where I lean. I could be totally wrong, but one of the things we developed, and credit to Doug Brotherton from the Village Vikings in Texas. He's a state champion this year. Good dude I met through working some camps over the last few years, and we had some ideas down, and we had some different things down that we were going to do, and we were tweaking. And I spoke to him, and he says, this is kind of how we do it. This is the point system that we have, and our off season is going to basically, when I give to these girls Monday, it's going to include, hey, conditioning, strength training, basketball workouts, but it's also going to be like reading stuff they're grateful for, sending out text messages to their teams, contacting me and letting me know where they are as far as doing their workouts. There's some other things. How can we serve others? And we're basically got, 5 levels. Are you going to be elite? And then our next level is Lady Bears. That would be what I would consider the acceptable standard to be part of our program. And then our bottom 3 levels are woulda, coulda, shoulda. And hopefully we won't have anybody in those levels. But we've just got, a bunch of resources to give our kids. And a lot of those will be culture-based, and a lot of those will be, hey, skill development, strength-based. And hopefully our kids will commit to doing those things. What was pretty cool this past year, obviously this past summer, we got to see our kids, but I didn't have a ton of summer, and there's a lot of dead periods now in North Carolina. And, our senior, Maddie Stotts, came back, and I told her, I said, look, in 6 weeks, school will be here, and I'll know how much work you've put in. And I don't have to yell at you. I'm not telling you, I can't make you do this stuff I'm giving you, but I'll know. And she came back in the best shape of her life. And, she credit to her, and she had to play a lot of minutes and get up and down the floor. And obviously she was a big part of us, and we're going to miss her. But, same thing with these kids. I'll know the ones that are committed to it and the ones that won't, whether I can prove it or not. So I think with our culture that our kids will commit to doing it.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And, I know that during this time, every coach is sending stuff out and trying to give our players some guidelines and some things that they can be doing on their own. But having that point system and some kind of accountability, both individually and as a team, I'm assuming there is really cool. And I actually sent that to our coaches at Athletes Lab today and said, hey, just, buddy sent me this creative way to hold your guys accountable and make sure, like you said, that when 6 weeks is up or however long it ends up being for us, that you're ready to go, and because it's coming back at some point, so we better be ready when it does. One big takeaway from that, and one thing I think is interesting, and is spot on, is your point system is more than just basketball. It's more than just how many free throws can you get, or things along those lines. But it's reading, it's connecting with teammates, it's cultural stuff. And, I really think there's a silver lining in all this. And one of those is that, those are things that we may not have otherwise been able to spend as much time on this time of year, regardless of what sport we're in. But like you said earlier, I think those are things that maybe in the long run are more important to the success of our team. And you got to be able to hit free throws and things like that. But, connecting with teammates, culture, all those things are certainly important. Also interesting, you mentioned Coach Brotherton and getting that from Texas. One thing that I've just been blown away by with coaches in all sports, all across the world, really, is everybody's willingness to share right now. And I'll be honest, you and me said this the other night, it's almost overwhelming sometimes. You hop on Twitter and see all the guys across the nation and the world, and you got a Zoom call tonight, and you got this podcast, and these guys are getting together. But I mean, incredible stuff getting shared, no matter what level you're at, what sport you're at. It seems like there's something every night that you can hop on and learn, and that culture of learning and sharing is just really, really special, I think, during this time. What are some things you've done? Obviously, you mentioned Coach Brotherton. What are the things that virtual coaches clinics, things like that you've been plugged into during this time?
Well, ironically, kind of what I took from Coach Brotherton the other night was actually, he runs a lot of pace and space and dribble drive, and he's very conceptual in the way he coaches, which is the way we want to be, and he does a good job. But ironically, after it was over, he since kind of talked about some of the stuff they were doing, and it's where I end up still in the most. But I will say, when I've been at the Beals camp, I guess the last 2 years, and this year was going to be 3. We've been doing this stuff probably for the last 3 or 4 years. And a lot of the guys putting stuff out are guys that I've have relationships with and stuff. So it's been neat to see them kind of get some, I guess some credit or get some exposure that they hadn't gotten because people didn't have to do this stuff. I've probably got 1,000 clinics I haven't watched already, even though I've got some I have. Trying to pick and choose. But one thing I try to do as well is read. I've read a couple books. Obviously, the Bulls' Last Dances. I'm hopefully going to get to 11 Rings. It's sitting right here beside me. I'm about halfway through Belichick. Actually sent one of our players a book that I asked her if she would read, and I would read along with her. It kind of, was one of our captains, and I may send some other kids some books too. And I've just kind of, spent time trying to develop myself. There's some other offenses I've looked at. Some I like, some are too complicated, even for me probably. And so you're just trying to work on your craft. If you're trying to change defenses or change offenses and do all that stuff in the middle of the season, obviously you're going to tweak and add and do some things. But if you really want to change how you play or really change something defensively or even offensively, you better do that in the summer. You better figure out how you're going to do it. If you go into November and you start doing that stuff, I just don't know how good you can be if you don't have some sort of identity. So, to answer your question maybe a little bit more too, right before we get on here, I was, working on the stuff that I give our kids. And, the thought crossed my mind, what if we do all this and we don't even play in the winter? That seems crazy. But, what if we do all this and we don't play in the winter? Because I had a buddy say, it could come back. And I said, at the end of the day, we're still building our own house. And that was a video I watched from Chop Wood, Carry Water that, hey, man, what if we do all this and it doesn't and we don't get to play? Are we worse people for it? Or are we, at some point it's going to benefit, not everybody's a senior. Surely I'm going to coach another game, I hope. These kids are going to play college athletics. So it's only going to make them better. It's only going to make us better as people. So we just got to commit to doing it and realize in the end it's going to make us better, even if we don't like how we're having to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And by the way, if you're listening, go check out that story, Building Your Own House by Joshua Metcalf from the book Chop Wood, Carry Water. That's a really good one. And we actually had Joshua come by school and give a talk a couple years ago. It was really, really cool for our student body. But I've thought about that too, is regardless of when we get to play again, and we will, but regardless of when we get to play again and what all that looks like going forward, all of that's out of our control really at this point. I heard somebody say the other day, if you don't leave this situation and this shutdown as a better person, coach, athlete, whatever it is, then really it's on you. I mean, we're in 2020. There's more information. There's more access to information. Folks are more willing to share than ever before. So, I think having that stuff at our disposal is such an advantage. And if you're not taking advantage of those things, whether it's, on Twitter or email groups or whatever, then, I don't know. But, certainly an opportunity to grow professionally, personally during this time. Anything else you want to mention for our folks before we hop off here? Any final takeaway, final thought?
No, I would just, I know you guys are kind of doing this for your kids, and I would just encourage them to commit to whatever they're doing. It's really easy to work out, I guess, when, you've got somebody there helping you or there with you. It's really hard to do that stuff when nobody's watching. And, you can fool a lot of people, but, you can fool a lot of people, but you really can't, One of the things that Doug took us, and I mean, you were talking about it the other day, was, one of the things I'll tell my kids is you have to marry the truth. And we tell ourselves a lot of stories in our heads. I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And, oh, it's okay. And we probably lie to ourselves more than anybody. If you want to be good at something, baseball, whatever it is, they've got to start being married to, hey, the truth. Hey, this is what I've got to do. I'm going to do it and live that way. And if they can do those things athletically and kind of invest in themselves, when this thing's over, they're going to be ahead of a lot of people.
That's right. I agree. Good stuff. It takes what it takes. And that's what we always say from Coach Saban. So good stuff there. Coach, can't thank you enough for hopping on with us. Folks listening, coaches, we're trying to get him down to the Performance Center this summer and make the mental game and trying to gain an edge with those types of things a part of what we do and a part of our training and development. So, Coach, again, can't thank you enough for hopping on and carving out time for us. And hopefully we'll see you on a court again soon. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, bud.